All right, so today we're definitely gonna continue on with proportions. Similar, we're gonna set up and then solve. So this is just like what we did yesterday. There's nothing new with this first problem. Spotify sales or sold 178,000 R&B music downloads. This represents 40% of the Spotify sales. How many total downloads does Spotify sell? Well, remember when we're working with percents, it's always percent over 100. And that's always going to equal our part over whole or total. All right, so if that's the case, our percent is given here at 40. So we will have 40% over 100. And our part, when we read this, we're going to say Spotify sold 178,000 R&B music downloads. All right, cool. These R&B music downloads represent 40%. So we know 40% isn't a total. It's not a whole. It's just a part. So the 178,000 R&B downloads represent 40%. So they represent a part. And that leaves us looking for the whole or total. You can also notice down here where it says how many total downloads. That's kind of a pretty big giveaway that we're looking for total. All right, so just to solve, we cross multiply. And you'll see that 100 times 178,000 equals 17,800,000. All right, and then you want to remember that we are going to divide by X's partner. So we divide by 40. You'll see that a 0 cancels out. And what you'll be left with is 445,000 total downloads. That's our answer was definitely D. All right, the managers of an airline analyzed a random sample of flights and found that 42 out of 50 flights were on time. The airline has 450 flights scheduled for next week. How many flights will not be expected to arrive on time? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you two different ways to do this. And then for the rest of the problems that are like this, I'm going to do it one way, right? So the first way we can do this is we can just use the information given. So setting this up is just like anything else we've ever done. So the information given is that we have 42 out of 50 flights were on time. So that's going to be on time and flights. That's what we're comparing. And if anybody was in class with me today, they know that this pen and scratch pad I have is about to compare with the trash can because it is not being friendly. So on time, we know we have 42 out of our 50 total. And then we have to figure out, are we looking for our total or what are we looking for? Well, the airline has 450 flights scheduled for next week. So they have 450 flights. So we have 450 here, which means that we're looking for something. We're looking for our part, right? Well, the question says how many flights will not be expected to arrive. Well, if you look at the way we have it written, we're actually going to find how many flights out of this 450 are going to be on time. And we'll address that after we finish completing this proportion. So we cross multiply, and 42 times 450 is going to equal, bust out your handy dandy calculator, going to equal 18,900. All right, and then we know that we need to divide by X's partner. So these zeros cancel out, 50, and you'll see that we're left with, excuse me, we're left with 378 flights. Now, those are the flights that are going to arrive on time because that's how we set up our proportion. So what our last step is to take our initial number, 450, subtract 378 from it, and what you'll get is 72. All right, so the answer is B. That's going to be 72 flights not on time. All right, let's switch it up. Let's try to find one motion, flights that are not on time. All right, so let's set up our proportion. we have not on time over flights. What you'll notice is that both of these, the way that we do this is very similar. There's really just one big change, just one big change. All right, so not on time. Well, if I know that 42 flights out of 50 are on time, well, 42 out of 50 leaves me with 8. So 8 were not on time. All right, well, I still have 50 flights. I still have 450 flights for the next week, and I'm still looking for how many are not on time. But notice here, now we're actually solving for not on time. So let's cross multiply. And 8 times 450. All right, 8 times 450 will give you 3,600. And we know that we need to divide by X's partner. So we divide by 50, and what you will get is 72 flights not on time. So it's really your choice how you want to do these. You can use the information given and then just subtract at the end, or you can subtract in the beginning. Again, I think it's a little easier to get the real thinking out of the way because it gives us our answer right here without any extra steps. And that's because we're looking for not on time. All right, so a librarian knows that 85% of the students will not, or sorry, skipping ahead. A librarian knows that 85% of the students will return their books on time. If the library has a total of 6,400 books, how many of those books will not be returned on time? How many books will not be returned on time? All right, so we know that we're going to work with percent over 100. And we have 85% of students that will return their books on time. But remember, we're looking for not on time. Not on time. So 100 minus 85, that's going to give us our 15 over 100. That 15% of students will not return their books on time. So the library has a total of 6,400 books. All right, so we know that's going to go in the denominator because remember, it's always part over whole or total, whatever you want to say. All right, so that leaves us looking for how many students will not return their books on time. Well, we cross multiply. You'll see that 15 times 6,400 equals 96,000. And we're going to divide by X's partner. So we divide by 100. You don't even need a calculator for this. These zeros cancel out. And we are left with 960 books not returned on time. All right, so it's a lot quicker when you kind of factor in that 85% of the students were on time and we're looking for not on time, right? So we're looking for 15%. And you can kind of do some of that in your head. I feel like it makes it go by a little bit quicker. All right, so the following pie chart shows that percentages of students' favorite sport. If 48 students were polled, how many of them are not a fan of track or soccer? So let's look at the sections of this pie chart that are not a fan of track and soccer. We have these 3 sections right here. All right, we have swimming, we have gymnastics, and we have tennis. We don't care about track or soccer. So as always, it's a percent, so it's going to be over 100. And let's add them up. We have 12 plus 11 plus 27. If you throw that in Desmos or your calculator, you get 50. All right, and again, we're going to put this over total, or part over total. Well, I'm looking at half of this pie chart. So to me, that screams I'm looking for my part. But if you look in the problem, you can also notice that it says 48 students were polled. All right, so I know that 48 is my total, and I don't know how many of these 48 it is. Now, a lot of you are going to be like, it's 50%, so half of 48, no brainer. But if we're going to cross multiply, we'll have 50 times 48, and that's going to be 2,400. And remember, we divide by x's partner, which is 100. And look, you can just knock out those zeros, and you're left with 24. Right, and that's fair to say because 24 is 50% of 48, right? Or a half. 50% and a half of the same thing. So our answer is definitely 24. All right, this one, I really like these questions. First of all, they give us a fraction. Our extra piece right here is about cost. And we don't even have to mess with that until the end. So before we even read this, I'm just going to highlight something, and you'll notice when I read it, I'm going to keep it out. All right, I'm not going to worry about this until the end. All right, so Mr. Kiernan went to buy cookies for his wife. He bought 24 cookies. Of the cookies he bought, 5 of 8 were oatmeal raisin. What was the total cost of just the oatmeal raisin cookies? All right, so they give us a fraction. Bam, right away, let's just line this fraction up. If they give us a fraction, you use the fraction. Well, what does this fraction tell us? It tells us that for every 8 cookies, it tells us for every 8 cookies, oh my goodness. Every 8 cookies, 5 of them, so out of every 8 cookies, 5 of them were oatmeal cookies. All right, so let's figure out what's our total amount of cookies. What are we looking for? Well, Mr. Kiernan went to buy cookies for his wife. He bought 24 cookies. That's it. Our total is 24 cookies. If you don't believe me, continue to read. What is the total cost of just the oatmeal raisin cookies? So put our X up with oatmeal raisin. All right, go ahead and cross multiply here. And you'll get 5 times 24, which is going to be 120. We know that we're dividing by X's partner, which is just going to leave us with 15 oatmeal raisin cookies. Well, let me highlight what I had. Let's read the question again. Mr. Kiernan went to buy cookies for his wife. He bought 24 cookies, and each oatmeal cookie was 75 cents. Each oatmeal cookie was 75 cents. So all we have to do to finish this up is 15 times, we have 15 cookies. Each one of them costs 75 cents. And when you do that, you get $11.25. All right, now this is probably my favorite question, just because you got to really think about the real world. So I want you to, if you're doing this kind of on your own or following along, I want you to think about a bus as a bus, right? A bus is an object. It's a thing. It's not a number. It's a thing, right? So when you get your answer, you're going to be like, well, what? And obviously it's not going to be perfectly matched with any of these, but you have to think. All right, setting this one up super quick. Students at Bayside Middle School will be traveling to Richmond, Virginia. If 6 buses will hold 140 students, how many buses will be needed to hold 332 students? All right, first of all, I got buses over students. And because this is our last day of proportions, I'm gonna go ahead and bust out the way we started it. And we're gonna go by consistency here. All right, so let's highlight everywhere I see buses. I got 6 buses. I got how many buses? I got 140 students. I got 332 students. So in the beginning, if 6 buses will hold 140 students, so 6 will hold 140. How many buses? I don't know. If I say I don't know, I got to put X in there. Well, 332 students. Notice I'm very consistent. Where I see buses, I put the info given. Students, I put the info given. Let's cross multiply. So 6 times 332 is going to equal 1,992. And we know that we divide by X's partner, right? And when we divide by X's partner, we get 14.22875 3, whatever, bunch of numbers, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just round off at the 100th, and it's going to be 14.23. Have y'all ever seen 0.23 of a bus? No. Right? So if you pick 14, that means you're getting rid of these 0.23 amount of space that the kids need on the buses. So that's why 14 is not correct, because we have this 0.23. So we need space. Now, we don't need a whole nother bus, but we still need part of a bus. So fortunately for us, we get that extra bus. There's just a bunch of space on it. So we load up 0.23% of like 1% of the kids, I guess. We load up some of the kids onto that bus, just enough so the rest of the buses are full, and there's a bunch of space on the extra bus. So you pretty much have to round that up, and your answer will be 15 buses, right? At least the kids on the last bus can social distance. All right. With that said, y'all have a wonderful evening. I'll see you tomorrow. And for you taking the Civics SOL tomorrow, good luck.